Today on Tech Tuesday, we're going to review phosphorus and potassium fertilizer recommendation strategies and what goes into them. So in just a brief overview, basically it comes down, there's two different concepts for making phosphorus and potassium fertilizer recommendations. The first one is crop sufficiency. The second is a build and maintain or build and maintenance philosophy. First of all, we'll talk about crop sufficiency. Sufficiency fertility programs are essentially an estimate of the long-term average amount of phosphorus or potassium that an individual crop in any given season would need. So essentially you're fertilizing that crop for that given year with no regard to what future soil test values may be. With this said, most of the time when you consistently year in and year out follow a crop sufficiency approach, your soil test P and Ks will kind of plateau or stabilize in the low crop responsive test range. So with crop sufficiency, that critical level is very important for P and K. So in the case of phosphorus, we typically will use 20 parts per million. So when the soil test value gets above 20 parts per million, it's unlikely that you're going to see a crop response to any additional phosphorus. Now this isn't to say that a small amount of starter may still be justified for early season growth, especially if soil temperatures are cool. But essentially with sufficiency fertility programs, the thing to remember is that you're basically fertilizing that crop for that given year. And typically these are the most economical fertilizer recommendations in any given year. The build and maintenance or build and maintain approach basically is what you're trying to do is apply enough phosphorus and potassium to build those soil test levels over a certain period of time to get it at or slightly above that critical level. So phosphorus, it's typically 20 to 30 parts per million. And for potassium, it's typically 130 to 150 parts per million is what we target for those critical levels. And typically, typical build time frames can vary from 4 to 8 years, depending on economics and soil type. Build and maintenance. One thing to remember is build and maintenance fertility programs are not necessarily the optimum economical fertilizer recommendation any given year. Here you're basically trying to build those soil test levels for future years while not limiting crop yields. So definitely the build and maintain maintenance approach is a lot more aggressive. And these are some of the things that you need to consider when you submit a soil sample to fertility or soil testing labs. You can request a recommendation back from them. And different labs have different philosophies. Some of them are very aggressive in the build and maintenance, while some of them follow more of a crop sufficiency based approach. And this can mean, in studies that we've done over the last couple of years, this can mean up to $100 difference in fertilizer recommendations on a per acre basis between that build and maintain approach and the crop sufficiency. So you need to understand what the lab is sending you back, and it's all right to ask questions and compare those differences because in any given year your approach or philosophy may change. So just some things to consider as we prepare for the planting season, 2018 planting season. Consider your fertilizer recommendations and differences. Consider your soil type. On our valent sands or our sandiest fields in the region, we found that it's very unlikely that you can build soil test phosphorus and potassium levels. So we go with more of a crop sufficiency based approach on those soils. So consider that when you're thinking about your starter program and fertility program in 2018. Think about where those recommendations came from and what philosophy they follow. With that, we'll wrap up this week, Tech Tuesday. Thanks.